So I was just thinking that I came and I had darshan Srila Gurudev, and I saw darshan of Srila Gurudev on the altar, and then darshan of Shishivara Govindaju, and then I knew you were back. So I said, but I didn't get darshan of Vindupati, so my darshan not complete. And then you walked from one side, then you walked to the other side. Then I said, okay, now darshan is complete. Just very happy to have you back, Prabhuji. Hey, Sri Guru Ganada Swananda Datta Karanaya Kushindu Vrindavana Sinavatara Prasida Siddhara Pranaya Prachara Ajanulambito Bujo Kanuka Validato Sankirtana Kapitaro Kamla Taksho Ishvambro Dvijoyo Yugadama Balo Vandi Jagatpriya Karo Karuna Vataro Ananda Lilamaya Vigraya Himam Devachta Vishundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasha Pradaya Shri Chaitanya Chandra Namo Namaste Kosturi Tilakam Latapatale Bakstena Kostavam Sagri Varamuktikam Karatare Venu Karakankanam Sava Angahari Chandanam Salalitam Kantam Muktavali Rajastrio Parivestito Vijayate Gopala Chudamani Eshi Shama Shundara Shikara Shekara Smerhasana Manovara Varikara Sika Mama Kripanadi Swapriya Charana Kinkaring Kuru Tavai Vasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Detvam Nayamam Charanantikam Yatkin Kureshu Bausa Kalukakavani Nitapurasha Purusha Shakandamuli Tashagara Rasanidi Vasavanujayas Takeli Kunja Bhavanangana Marajini Shamo Pujami Radha Ravinda Netram Smarami Radha Maduro Smitasham Vadhami Radha Karuna Barajam Tato Manasti Gati Nakapi Pakata Vihino Yaparada Lakshay Shiptascha Kamadi Tarangamaji Kripa Mayi Twang Sharanam Prapana Vrindi Namasti Charana Ravindam Kanaka Jaladagatro Nilasobhagya Netro Mrigumarvara Valu Malati Kundamalo Tarvana Tarana Vesho Nilampitambaresho Smarani Nibritini Kunje Hariko Krishna Chandro Vancha Kalpatrubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Dhanwad Pranam devotees, I'm very happy that I'm able to come and have the Association of Devotees here. Normally on Sundays I have a class online, so it's difficult to come every single Sunday. So I've asked the online devotees to please give me some permission to come at least once in a month to have association here.
We'll take it.
Huh?
We'll take it.
Anyway, so it's not so much about me giving the class as much as me having a chance to have association, because Harikatha is not coming from individual persons, it's coming from the Guru Parampara. So I told the story before in North Carolina. Srila Gurudev was unable to come to that festival, and Bhumipati reminded me, actually I thought I was in the room upstairs, but actually I was out in front of the venue where the festival was going on. And Gurudev, Brajanath Prabhu called and said that Gurudev wanted to speak to me, so I was holding the phone, and Gurudev said, how is the festival going? Is everything going well? So I told, yes, Gurudev, everything was going very nicely. And so he says, how is Harikatha? I told, Harikatha is very good. So-and-so Maharaj has spoken. So-and-so Didi has spoken. And Gurudev said, who's speaking? So I said, well, so-and-so Maharaj and so-and-so Didi, etc. No, who's speaking? So I put it on speaker because I thought maybe, I didn't want to yell and maybe Gurudev wasn't hearing. So I put it on speaker. And Gajahanta Prabhu was standing next to me, so we both same time said, Gurudev, yes, so-and-so speaking, Maharaj is speaking. Guru said, no, I am speaking. All are only repeating what I've spoken, so really I am speaking. So I always digested that actually all of those who are serving Srila Gurudev's Harikatha, they're coming into an atmosphere where people are mutually accommodating them, and they're repeating whatever they've gleaned from Srila Gurudev. And in that atmosphere, Srila Gurudev himself becomes present to bless the hearers and the facilitator, that their bhakti will grow by their faith and their trust in each other as devotees to repeat Srila Gurudev's instruction. So it's never been a case that anybody owns Harikatha and so forth and so on. So it's a very, very important point, because sometimes that's misconstrued. Right? So it doesn't matter who's speaking. If we'll hear that Harikatha and the speaker is considering that I'm speaking to the best of my ability what I've gleaned from Guru Parampara, and the hearers support that speaker, then Bhakti's presence will come there. Mm-hmm. So the subject matter today is a little bit long, but I'm going to try to put it together so that the whole time is not gone, and also that we're not too late in serving Takaji. And I also have another Zoom class. Anyway, I escaped one this morning. But I have another one at 1:30 or something. So anyway, the subject matter was about the psychology of the practice of bhakti, because a little bit, there are many issues which arise perennially. It means they come up every year. You know, issues about the origin of the jiva, issues about the swarupa of the jiva, issues about this thing in bhakti or that thing in bhakti. So one thing that also kind of arises from time to time, if not annually, is an idea of the efficacy of bhakti as a complete thing in and of itself, or whether or not there are things which are supplemental to bhakti, which are not exclusively Swarup Siddha Bhakti, that are supplemental to bhakti, which are necessary in order to aid one in the practice of bhakti. And I've preached for many, many years that the currency in bhakti is our faith. Faith is the actual currency which propels bhakti. That's why Sri Rupa Goswami Padas began that Ado Shraddha. The very first thing that comes up in bhakti is Shraddha. So to give an idea how powerful is Shraddha, in the 11th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, it's mentioned there, Nadya Vidya Yuktasha, Purushasha Veda Atmanam. Swato na sambhavanti anya gyanatva ganado bhavet. In this shlok, Shri Vyasadeva Ji, Sut Goswami, Shri Shukdev Goswami, they're saying it is not possible for the jiva who has been from a nadi kal yukta to avidya. Avidya means 5 things. What are 5 things of avidya? Avidya itself, and close. Asmita. Asmi means I am somebody, but not who I actually am. So asmi and ahamkara attaches to asmita. Asmi, like tavai-vasmi, I am. The suffix in Sanskrit ita means a condition. So asmita means the condition of not being who I actually am. That gives facility in the Mahatattva for the ahamkara to attach to it. So now I am not who I actually am, which is dasosmi, the servant of Krishna, and I now believe I am the karana and karata of everything. This is the meaning of ahamkara. Aham, I am the karana, cause, and karata, doer of everything. Understand? So this is ahamkara. Then that gives rise to a particular upadi according to karma. Means in any particular birth, any karmic iteration, you get one particular designation. I've mentioned this thing before, that you're born to Sally Doe and John Doe, your name is Dodo. I always make this. So that particular upadi is your own karmic portfolio package or karmic iteration that's specific to you in any given life, right? So besides that, there's rag and dvesh, but the last thing is abhinivesh. And abhinivesh means an inextricable bond to the avidya shakti, which cannot be broken. Swato na, you cannot break it yourself. Gyanatva ganadobha ved, it requires sadhu guru, who's imbued with swarup shakti, to break it. The very first element of swarup shakti that descends in the purview of the jiva, saga sangamena ratnya ankura rupa eva moti. Mati means the discrimination that gives rise to a question. Keami, kenyamai, jareta patra. Two questions. One question is, who am I actually? And why am I suffering? These are the questions Sanatana Goswami Pad asked to Mahaprabhu. The rising of these questions in various iterations, because everybody's question rose differently. There was some point in everybody in here's sojourn in this life where he said, there must be something else, you know? This is not the all in all, man. I'm gonna check this out, I'm gonna check that out. You started your spiritual path, read Autobiography of a Yogi, or something. Or Siddhartha, if you're really old, or something. So, or Kali Gibran, let me stop. All right, so you started on some sojourn looking out to see what is the truth about things. So this is called mati, right? The essence of that mati is ado shraddha. That shraddha has the power. Shraddha anupayani barjam bhakti unmukhi chitta vritti vishesh. So the chitta is the stream of consciousness coming from the atma, which is connected to the subtle form of the material world called Mahatattva. In Srimad Bhagavatam 3rd Canto, this is described. That creates the chitta. On that chitta, the impression of the material energy comes in the form of the three modes of material nature. You cannot break that connection yourself. So when Sava Sangamena Ratnya Ankor, by Sangha of a sadhu, Ratnya Ankor, the Ankor means like the sprout of Rati, comes in the form of Mati, which is the personification of Ado Shraddha. That Shraddha has the power. Shraddha Anupayani Varajam. Varajam means a power, like to break something. Anupayani Varajam, Bhakti Unmukhi. It then takes the chitta and makes it unmuk, means turns it towards pursuit of the absolute truth in the form of Bhagavan, your relationship with Bhagavan, etc. So whereas nothing else that you could do that, the seed called Shraddha was able to do that. So understand how powerful Shraddha is? So you can get this picture. Nothing from your sojourn in the material world, from a Nadikal, could break this Abhinavesh. But just the sprout of Shraddha broke that absorption and turned you towards the seva of Krishna. This is the real meaning of the verse. Brahmanda Brahmati Kon Bhagavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Bhai Bhakti Lata Bij. So two things I mentioned, the Lata and the Bij. The Bij is called Mati. It is the descent of faith. The Lata is Krishna Seva Vasan, because from the turning, that Bij enters, and from the Bij, the sprout grows and becomes the tendency towards service to Krishna. And then that begins, Guru Pada Sraya, Tata Diksha Shikshari, etc. You understand? So that turn is done by faith. So how powerful is faith? It is most valuable currency in this material world. It is much more valuable than Bitcoin. You understand? Or whatever. I don't know what the rate are, but you understand? So this faith is the most powerful currency that we have. In fact, it's mentioned Shraddhavan Jan Bhaktayadi Kari Kanishta Majam Uttam Shraddha Anusari. Your particular adhikar in bhakti is based on the flow of that Shraddha. Shraddha Anusari. Your adhikar in bhakti follows the flow of that Shraddha. Understand? Therefore, it's mentioned, I'm talking about Shraddha because it'll be very important in understanding the psychology going forward. Shraddha Shabde Vishwash Kohe Sudrida Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Koila Sava Kam Krita Hoy. This bhakti should be understood. Shraddha Shabde, the sound Shraddha. Kohe, by saying this, what we mean to say is Shraddha Shabde Vishwash Kohe. Vishwash, what is a Vishwash? Anybody know what is Vishwash? Sanskrit, one definition is there, trust. Confident is actually in the Abhidhamma as well. Anyone else? Vishwash. Trust is written there, confidence is written there. Huh? Conviction. But another meaning is given in the Abhidhamma. Abhidhamma means a dictionary. It means to breathe. So it's composed of two words, the prefix V and Shwash. So it means the particular mood of trust, conviction, confidence, faith that you have that my next breath will take place. Therefore, you plan on it. Wow. I plan on finishing the lecture because I'm believing the next breath will come, because without it, we won't have the lecture. That kind of trust, faith, conviction in Krishna Bhakti Koila, that Krishna Bhakti, Sava Kam Krita Hoy, can do everything. This is called faith. You understand? So without that kind of conviction, then our bhakti does not really advance. But there is an issue that also pops up. Because we've been in our sojourn in the material world from Anadikal, certainly there are impressions coming from two sources. One is Karmana Dhaivananda Traina Janto Dehopapatye. Karmana Dhaivananda Traina means the material impressions from previous life's activities and aspirations. Those influences come into the next life and play out as prarabdha karma. Understand? What we're going through in this particular life. Secondly, for most of us in this room, certainly there were previous bhakti sanskars as well. Because of what the things we've heard, everything, so forth, there were bhakti sanskars. So praktanakana aduni chasti yasad bhakti vasana. So the bhakti vasans and the material vasan, means material impressions and bhakti impressions, are simultaneously coming into this particular karmic package and both exercising their influences. Understand? Because of that, at some particular point in your life, I'm only 25 now, but anyway, at some particular point in your life, right, the inspiration came to start looking towards bhakti. When you did that, maybe you heard a kirtan party, maybe you got a book, something happened that started that was the genesis of starting your sojourn in this life. But it was not the first beginnings of bhakti. The previous impressions of bhakti rose at that time and caused that thrust of interest in turning towards the alternative view. The material impressions as well still came. They did not stop because you took an interest in bhakti. So now what happens is there's one tract of spiritual impressions, one tract of material impressions. Does the material energy and the spiritual energy ever coexist homogeneously? Never. Asangahi anyam purushaha, mentioned in Upanishads. Material energy and spiritual energy, like oil and water, they do not mix. So what happens is that these two tracks are going along, and most people are going along trying to balance, like a train is balanced on these tracks. Every now and then on the layout of a track system, you see how the rails cross to change the direction of the train? Well, I'm using the analogy only to show at those places where the tracks intersect are the times when devotees go through psychological or emotional upheavals and sort of peaks and valleys. When those tracks intersect, those are the moments of those kinds of emotional and psychological issues in bhakti. You understand this? In other words, because they don't mix, it creates a pressure. You understand? A pressure. Why would it create a pressure? Bhakti is very unique in that bhakti demands a number of things. One, it demands that you realize from the conditional point of view, I'm helpless. And because of false ego, which we mentioned earlier, the feeling of being the karta and karan of everything, it is very difficult to digest, I have no control. For those people who went to college here, when you went into your freshman year of college, you believe that in 4 years, minus my party time, right, that somehow or another, I was going to graduate in 4 years. If you decide to pick up another 2 or 4 years of graduate school, I had 6 years to go. I planned that I was going to get a job at that time. I was going to work for 2 years in this sense, and I was going to grow. Everything we've done, we've time-stamped it on our agenda from the basis of being the controller of that narrative. True or false? Yeah. True. What day do you plan to become a pure devotee?
Tomorrow.
What? Yeah, you understand? What's your timeline for becoming a pure devotee? You understand?
When I'm 70.
Huh? When I'm 70. This is the thing. This is one of the first realizations you get. You're not in control of the time markers like you were in the material world. Raghunath Das Goswami is saying, Yari Cherava Samsaragam Prati Janur. Be prepared to go even life after life after life to get Braj Bas with Rag. That's unfathomable for us because everything we do now is even down to the point of we can get food in a few seconds from a microwave. Now you're saying that I can't even give you a timeline on when you're going to get pure bhakti. It is absolutely out of your control. But wait a minute. But my practice should award me bhakti. And if I'm practicing, it should become due when the bhakti is pure. But listen carefully. Kriti sajja bhavat sajja bhavasa sadanabhida. Nityasiddhasa bhavasa prakritam riddhi sajjata. Is bhakti produced by your sadhana or not? No, directly in the Tika, Jiva Goswami Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, it is not dependent on your sadhana. It is a nitya siddha bhav which exists in the hearts of the eternal associates. So even your sadhana, what you thought now was the newly acquired kartatva or doership, you gave up in the material world. I got the new one now. I'm in bhakti. Don't you see the tilak? You didn't see that I was up at 3:30? I was at Mangalarti. So the new sense of doership is now applied to bhakti, and there's a sense of I am due the perfection of bhakti because I'm practicing it. But there is no guarantee like that your sadhana can produce a nitya siddha bhav. So you are completely helpless. Can someone else who's in conditioned life, can they give you bhakti? Therefore, pretty much in the mass association we have, we are pretty much alone in the pursuit as well. Because even though we are individuals, we're practicing in a collective, but we're actually individuals. So joining a collective mindset also does not guarantee bhakti. Well, I joined the Sangha, and that Sangha wasn't sufficient, so I joined this Sangha. You understand? But even in the collective, it does not guarantee that you will get bhakti. The only guarantee you have to get bhakti is what? Mercy. Who said it? Yes. Mercy. So that means not only am I not the doer, I am completely and utterly dependent on someone else. Shri Guru and Krishna. If you were in any situation in this material world where you were left alone in the dark with no ability to do anything, utterly dependent on others, would that cause some anxiety?
Sure does.
So why do you think it won't cause anxiety when you pick up the practice of bhakti? Why do you think that will not cause some emotional trauma and upheaval that you've placed yourself in this ultimately vulnerable condition in pursuing the path of bhakti? Certainly there will be psychological and emotional issues that go along with that. What happens is that from the point of view of ahamkara and doership, we were thinking we were simply upgrading the doership qualities by joining bhakti. That's what happened. Yeah, I realized the material world was full of suffering and all this kind of stuff, but I got him now, I figured it out. I'm going to join the bhakti thing. And when I join the bhakti thing, I'll be good. Because I'm going to have this power through this practice. That's going to give me the happiness I was looking for. And therefore, the first thing, well, before I get to that, first of all, let's all recognize our situation. Let's give our self-diagnosis here. So in the 11th canto, Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 20th chapter, verses 27 and 28 give a very nice, because Mool Grunt and Mool Praman for everything in Bhakti is what? Srimad Bhagavatam. It is Mool Praman for everything. Entire 400,000 verses of Jiva Goswami and all verses of Sat Sandarbha based on Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, it's called Bhagavat Sandarbha, but divided into the categories of Tattva Sandarbha, etc., etc. Right? Because everything is the Mool Tattva. So first, analyzing from Srimad Bhagavatam. So raise your hand, Jatashrado Matkateshu. Here it's saying, those who have come into the category of some faith to hear the Harikatha of Hari Guru and Vaishnava? If you're in that category, raise your hand. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have it. So that was a trick question. Understand? Everybody's in that category because you had enough faith to come in here today. Understand? Or yesterday or some other day you went. So it shows, it didn't say how much Shraddha. It said, are you in the category of having some faith in coming to hear the name, form, cause, etc. of Krishna? The answer would be yes. Nirvana Sarvakamashu. Have you recognized that the material world is not going to completely satisfy you? If so, raise your hand. Good. We're all on the same page. Veda Dukatmanam Kamam. You've seen that all the various types of sense gratification you had, you cannot have any of it without having concomitant miseries at some point, somewhere, sometime. Raise your hands if you've understood this. You think you can have enjoyment without any suffering?
Oh no, intellectually I know that's not true. But
Then you know. That's what it means. Ved means intelligently understanding. You can perceive. I cannot live, this world is not void of suffering. So there's no scope for having strictly enjoyment without any suffering. Somebody's going to spill salt in the sweet rice that you were cooking. There's no, at some point, something like that will happen. Right? Is it too hot? You understand? So there's no scope for that. So Veda Dukatmanam Kamam, all on the same page. Parityak pi anishvaraha. So here it means, though we've recognized it, are we completely all able to immediately give up all kinds of sense enjoyment and perception of the material world as enjoyable? Can we just easily give that up? If you're not one of those persons, raise your hand. Means you can't very easily and immediately give up everything in the material world. All right, so we are doubling down on it, right?
Not for lack of trying.
But that's what it says here. Parityag means there's an effort. Api, although there's an effort, anishvaraha. I'm not able to, I'm not the doer, and I cannot fully control it. So now we've given an analysis to a psychological difficulty from Bhagavatam. I've come into the process of bhakti, Jata Shraddha. I have that. Nirvana Savakarmashu. I realize that activities in the material world are not going to be satisfying. Even though I have this knowledge and I'm practicing, Parityagopi Anishvaraha. I'm unable to completely detach. Even with the practice itself, I'm completely unable to detach. Will that give rise to some psychological emotional drama? Because you're in an effort where you're seeing that that effort is not bearing the fruit you want to, and then it comes back to you, but I'm helpless, right? Don't be hopeless, Guru Dev said. That's a different thing. Don't be hopeless. But that I have no power to do this. I can only desire and manifest the desire by the practice of sadhana, but everything is dependent on Kripa. So it's not in my control. Understanding that psychological condition, Srimad Bhagavatam then says, Tato bhajate mam prita. With prita means with affection. Go on doing bhajan to Krishna. Bhajate mam. Do bhajan to me, Krishna is saying, with affection. In other words, don't develop the attitude, well, I have to do this. I really don't want to do it. Right? So there should be some affection there. Understand? Shradhalu Dhrida Nishchaya. Now he mentions, how will you proceed? This is why I gave the whole explanation of Shraddha in the beginning. Shradhalu Dhrida Nishchaya. What does Dhrida mean? Anybody know? No. Firm. Nishchaya means confident that this Shraddha will produce its effect. You're not the controller, but you have confidence. Just like Rupa Goswami. Utsahan Nishchayat Daryat. Nishchayat means confidence. Dayat means patience, because it's not in your control. Here saying same thing. Shradhalu Dhrida Nishchaya. Have confidence that bhakti works. Put your faith in that. Right? Shradhalu Dhrida Nishchaya. Have it a fixed, firm faith that this bhakti will work. Jasamanas Chatan Kamam. At the same time that you are going through whatever it is you're going through in the peaks and valleys of bhakti. This is the meaning of Jasamanas Chatan Kamam. Literally means while still struggling with the things in unfolding in bhakti. Go on with determination, firm faith, and affection. Affection to Guru, Mahaprabhu, Radhakrishna. Go on with affection, with a deep convicted faith in that. Dukko Darakayams Chagaryan. And here is almost a curse word in contemporary ideas of bhakti now. Go ahead and have a sense of guilt about your inability or inability to accomplish that goal right now. Have some, Garyan means repent or remorse or guilt. Right now, there's a concerted effort. I don't want to deal with any repression, guilt, or anything else. Why is Bhagavatam then recommending it? Because guilt, from the perspective of being the doer and being imbued with self-interest, creates more conflict and debilitation. You understand the difference? From the perspective of I am the doer, everything is about me and my self-interest. Guilt, remorse, or any of these things is debilitating to my self-interest, and therefore I can't deal with it. From the point of view of I am this sevak of Bhagavan, sevak of Guru, this guilt, remorse, it becomes a cushion that holds you and embraces you and lets you know, yes, you're feeling some remorse about the inability to love Bhagavan. Rather than being a crushing, debilitating, hard rock of truth or something, which your false ego can't deal with, in your sense of real identity, this Garyan, this remorse, repentance, sense of guilt, is a loving reminder that yes, I'm not going to accept the idea that not being able to perform bhakti is okay. Or that I'm not going to try to adjust bhakti to my self-interest. You understand? Because there's also this thrust now. I will adjust bhakti. Something was wrong with bhakti that I did not become fulfilled. Many times what people are talking about is not bhakti itself. They're talking about the mis or malapplication of bhakti from an institution or individuals. There's a difference. What people struggle through, went through, suffered through under institutional malapplication is not bhakti. It was not bhakti that made people suffer. So we won't adjust bhakti. Bhakti is self-perfect, swata siddha. Application can be imperfect, especially when that application is in a collective of other conditioned souls who are also unfolding. Where in the Shastra it recommends sadhu sangha, it did not mean a collection of aspirants. It meant the collection of aspirants should do sadhu sangha. Do you understand the difference? Now it's easy to say sadhu sangha is just, what's your classification? Yeah, I'm a devotee. Oh, you initiated? Okay, you're a devotee. You're a devotee, you're a devotee, you're a devotee. Okay, if we get together, this is called sadhu sangha. Is it sadhu sangha or not? What is it? Collection of aspirants. That's literally what it is. That collection of aspirants who have a mutual desire to have sadhu sangha. What is sadhu sangha then? What is a sadhu? Pure devotee is really the definition. Sadnoti sadayati cha Krishna premitti sadhu. That person who's realized sadvastu, the absolute truth to be Krishna prem, he's called a sadhu. What does it mean to do their sangha? Samyak rupain anugamana. So samyak rupain means completely. Samyak in Sanskrit means completely. Anugamana. Anu has three meanings here. Anu means continuously. Anu means to follow. And anu means with humility, because anu means, anutva means a sense of being small in relation to Guru. So it means humility. To continuously follow someone with humility is called doing sangha. So this is sadhu sangha. But as a collection of aspirants, we are all trying to follow the sadhu by body, mind, words, moods, everything else. But just a collection of aspirants is not sadhu sangha. So there's every possibility that malapplication in that collective may happen. And if we blame that malapplication of the principles of bhakti on bhakti itself, it will become aparad. You understand? It will become aparad. And then the aparad, what does aparad mean? Particularly apagata iti radha, apagata radha iti aparad. Radha means aradhana, means the principle of worship. To go opposite that principle of worship is called aparad. Okay? So to go against the love, affection, worship that is the embodiment in the form of radhika, to go opposite that is called aparad. Understand? So if we will blame bhakti, because who is bhakti? So if you'll blame bhakti is faulty here, I need to adjust it. Some imperfection is there in Radha. I need to adjust it. You understand? Because somehow or another you forgot to acknowledge what I'm going through. Understand? And I've gotten together with 10 other people and we had a council on this and we had a seminar and we all concluded this. Yes, all of us, every single condition one of us. We all concluded this. So we need to adjust bhakti itself. Understand? This is problematic. Understand? So, having realized that we're all in this category, still the question will arise that, Mukunda Prabhu, so how will you then deal or suggest that these psychological, emotional, even traumatic experiences that we may go through in the unfolding process, how and where is it described how to deal with them? So I've been preaching again for years that if we believe the acharyas were so naive that they thought people joined bhakti one day and they were pure devotees the next, that is also aparad. They knew that there's an unfolding process. It's written in Bhagavatam, I just quoted it. Do you think the acharyas didn't know that people do not become pure devotees overnight? Therefore they wrote in such a way to help the person through the various stages. And the first thing they did was wrote in a way that you could recognize what those stages are. So they wrote, there's a first stage called Shraddha, understanding what that is. The next thing we discussed somewhat, doing Sadhu Sangha. From the Sadhu, you'll receive instructions in Bhajan. This is called Bhajan. When you do this Bhajan, the Kriya Shakti of Swarup Shakti will subsidize what you don't have. Because remember I said we don't have capacity to do bhakti. We're not the doer. So where is the ability to perform it coming from? I can never remember this verse. Anuched 144 in Bhakti Sandarbha. I can never remember. But it describes how bhakti is a complete subsidy to the jiva. Why? Atahashi Krishna Navari Nabhavat Graham Indriya. The gross and subtle senses of the jiva cannot perform bhakti. So what is it in the mind intelligence and now attempt to have real ego means dasoshmi and the 5 senses and everything we use in the material world? What is making that bhakti? What is making those things bhakti seva? The subsidy of Guru Kripa in the form of bhakti shakti being given to the jiva through the harikatha Kripa Shakti of Guru. Understand this? So Guru Dev, as the agency of Bhagavan, is subsidizing our bhakti. It's making your ability to recite the prayers pleasing to Krishna so he'll remain on the altar. So you don't open your curtains the next day and where's my deities? Understand? So Krishna is staying there on the basis of the subsidy that when you recite that stav in stuti, it's carrying the subsidy of the power of the pure devotion of your Guru Dev. You understand? It's not coming from you. And therefore, again, if you believe you're the doer, you interfere or obfuscate the pure devotion coming from the subsidy of Guru, and therefore it doesn't have the same pleasing quality. It's like sweet rice with a little salt in it. You understand? Therefore, the complete idea of being Atmanikshepa Karpanya, completely being humble enough, Trinadapi Sunich, that I am not at all performing. My Guru Dev is subsidizing everything. You understand? So now, under that basis, you're performing bhakti. This is called bhajan, and the kriya in the word bhajan, kriya means the kriya shakti of Swarup Shakti dispensed by Guru Dev subsidizing your bhakti. That stage is called bhajana kriya. It is that power
that can remove anarthas. Therefore, the next stage is called anartha nivritti. Can you do anartha nivritti? You cannot. You cannot remove anarthas. That's why the stage prior to anartha nivritti is called bhajana kriya. What is removing anarthas? That kriya shakti is removing the anarthas. What are you doing? Desiring, crying, and sakshitva, witnessing. From the point of view of a witness, you're seeing the beauty of bhakti unfold. This is what it gradually will give you ruchi in bhakti. You understand? This is how bhajan life is done. Your ruchi will come from the taste of observing the functions of bhakti shakti in your own life. But if you're not paying attention to the bhajan, then you will miss it. And the practice will become niyamagraha or anusthanik. I'm rising every day, I'm chanting everything else, but I cannot concentrate on my bhajan. My mind is here and there. Until you can, if you hear Harikatha enough, it will help. This is the main thing. Because the Swarup of Harinam is Harikatha. If you hear Harikatha, this will give in you the power to become a kantik. An ekagrata means fixed, focused, putting your attention of your chitta in Nam and in Harikatha. When you will do that, you will see the workings of the Kriya Shakti in Bhakti in your bhajan. You understand? That gives rise to, just like if you're, I'm trying to find a mundane example. If you have anything that you're really interested in, the Olympic knitting, right? It was, oh, did he say? I'm describing Olympic knitting. So you take an interest, right? So you can drop everything when Olympic knitting comes on, right? And you can be fully absorbed. That's this kind of particular stitch, that's this kind of stitch. Now, if your spouse is there and they're looking at it, what do? Yeah. Right, you understand? Because they can't attach the chitta to that particular thing. This is what happens in bhajan. When you're chanting Harinam, then there are 5 subtle things that attack the attempt to connect the chitta to Nam. Loy, Bikship, Apratipati, Koshai, and Rasaswad. Right? I didn't even deal with the other things yet. But these are 5 things that attack bhajan pradhan, which means the root practice of bhajan, which is Harinam. So when you begin to chant Harinam, because you cannot connect your chitta sufficiently based on the absence of Harikatha. You understand? Based on the absence of Harikatha. You don't have enough substance to adhere to, adhesive I'm trying to say. Like an adhesive, you cannot connect your chitta to Nam because of the absence of the what would be the word? The bonding element. The adhesive. The adhesive is the Harikatha. There's not enough adhesive to bond your chitta to Nam. And therefore what happens when you begin to chant Nam is sleep. Now, if the telephone will ring, you were just sleepy. Right? You were just sleepy. If the telephone will ring, Haribo, knitting Olympics are on. What? Really? Because immediately your chitta has now jumped on and attached itself to your interest. You understand? And that brings the chitta to full state of awakeness and consciousness. You understand? So really we're not sleepy when we're chanting. So loy doesn't mean sleepier only. It means the inability to connect the chitta with Nam. And at the same time, you're trying to avoid anything else. And in that middle space between not being able to connect to the Nam and not being with something else, you fall into. You understand? Everybody understand what it is? Yeah. So you can't connect to one thing with your chitta, which is your consciousness, and you're trying to avoid connecting to something else. That leaves the gap for just be unconscious. Understand? And that is called loy. Even when you're attempting to do nam, then vikship will come. Vikship is two words, V and kshipt. So vikship means the inability, because of the material influences from our past, they don't come and flow naturally and calmly like a river. The material impressions don't do that. They're more wave-like. You understand? So when they come, they'll come and then just rise up. You're chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Did I pay my Visa bill? You understand? What could break the concentration of the lotus feet of Seva, Radha and Krishna absorbed in Nam, all these different things we talk about, for a Visa bill? It is the thrust of the power of how a material influence arises. If it was just and as you become more mature, you'll find that the material impressions, they do tend to pass by, because you can't stop them. But they tend to pass by because the Harikatha is so dominant in your chitta while you're chanting Nam, that the material influences pass by like this. They don't have the power to rise up, because they're checked by the influence of the Swarup Shakti coming from the Harikatha and Harinam. You understand? So they can't rise up, and vikship, the word ship means to throw. So vikship means when material impressions have the power to throw you off connection with Nam. So it doesn't, distraction is how it's translated. But what it really means is when something rises up and throws you off attachment of your chitta to Nam and Harikatha, etc. That is called vikship. Means to throw your chitta off the focus of Nam or Harikatha and bring it to whatever that material impression that arose was. Apratipatti. Apratipatti means a sense of inability to accomplish. This is what's written in the Abhidhamma. Apratipatti. A means with not. Pratipat means to acquire or perform or obtain. An overwhelming feeling of the inability to obtain the goal, giving rise to a sense of hopelessness, which gives rise to a sense of, I can't control it, I'm not the doer, how is this ever going to happen, but I can't give it up because it's the right thing to do. And then all the emotions start coming together. Material impressions, spiritual impressions, frustrations, and then somebody calls, Prabhu, can you do some seva at the temple today? While you're going through that particular crossroad of the material and spiritual impressions, right? So all of that happens simultaneously, and you just have this overwhelming feeling called apratipatti. And that overwhelming feeling doesn't allow you to raise your emotional content and place it in the bhajan, in the form of Nam. You understand? Because the instruction that was given in Srimad Bhagavatam was bhajeta mam prita. Prita means with affection. You can't raise that affection because of this overwhelming feeling of your own self-interest that I'm just overwhelmed. When do you become a pure devotee? I don't have any control. All these things intersecting at that time, apratipatti happens. Apratipatti then gives rise to koshoi. Koshoi means the sheath-like covering of your material impressions. Because now you acknowledge the power of those impressions to throw you off the focus of bhajan, to create a sense of hopelessness, and now you start to reflect all of this is due to my inability, which is a pratipatti, to really reach the goal because I'm overwhelmed by these material impressions. This is called koshai. So now you try to make a compromise. I have to chant. I cannot give up chanting. Now, the unfortunate thing is when people come to that point and they say, well, I can't do it. Just stop chanting your Gayatri, everything. But in those who continue to try, the next element that will attack is called rasaswad. Rasaswad is the compromise. You don't want to sleep. You don't want to feel hopeless. How will you import enthusiasm into your bhajan? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. My friend John called the other day. Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. We went to high school together. In fact, we were on the football team together. I remember that time when we went to the prom And then we met Sally and Jane. And then there was after party. That was crazy. Boy, what was it? And before you know it, the Harinam has become the backdrop to your chitta now tasting rasa in Jud Ras of your own previous material history. But you feel, I'm not sleeping. This is an upgrade, I'm not sleeping. Right? But my chitta is completely dominated in rasa swad. So I'm tasting the Jud Ras of material impressions in the form of any narrative that comes. So it's almost like, you know, the difference between Mantramaya Upasan and Swarasiki Upasan in Bhakti. Mantramaya Upasan is when you come to a mature stage and you'll have sporti of Radha Krishna and Seva Kunj. And that Mantramaya Upasan will come from hearing. Not, you won't be looking with your eyes. Shute Kshita Panta. One verse is there. From your hearing everything, the sporty of that will come. And you're seeing that. You understand? When that bhakti becomes more mature, what has led to the lila in Seva Kunj will unfold. You understand? So prior, Radha and Krishna was somewhere, Radhika became in Man. Radhika went here and Krishna's been trying to break her Man. Krishna has tried so many things, done, nati, bade, all the different things how to break Man. He's been unsuccessful. Finally, by the mercy of Manjaris, who's speaking to Radhika, who's made one vow. If Krishna will come here, I will not speak to him. If Krishna will come here, I won't even look at him. Oh, I certainly will never touch him again. But when Krishna shows up, long story short, because we'll lose our track if I start going down that track, by the mercy of the Manjaris, they say, oh, Swamini, we by force could not keep Krishna out. So he's come in and he's looking at you. And Radhika thinks, I will never look at him. Get out of here. I will never look at you. So, but you also told you'll never speak to him. But you've spoken to him. That's okay, I will never look at him. But look, he's coming closer to you. Don't let him touch you. So then she'll turn around and she'll see him and she'll jump up and grab him by the arm and escort him out of the kunj. So then Saki's going, listen, son, listen, Saki. Already all three of your promises have been broken. So why hold on to this last vestige of anything? Just go ahead and surrender and be with him. You understand? So like this lila will unfold in Swarasiki Upasan. So this is not at all, I'm making a comparison, but I'm saying what happens in Rasa Swad is you begin by chanting. One image comes from your previous material experiences. And then as you continue chanting, your chitta looking for attachment to something, and it doesn't have sufficient, like this lila I just told, to attach to, the leelas of your own past come up. And your chitta attaches to it and goes to the whole Swarasiki lila of Mukunda Das. You understand? Yes, when I talked to this person, I did that, this was this and that. 2 hours have passed, I'm smiling, and they were, oh, you have had very nice rounds. Yeah, it is. It's really wonderful. Wow, I'm really feeling enthusiastic about chanting. You understand? And now you figured it out. Whenever I chant, I'll wait a few minutes, let material impression come, and I'll be able to chant and not fall asleep anymore. Understand? But this also is not proper nam, because offense is there in nam to not give full attention to nam. Understand? And I gave one class some time back on the evolution of nam. And in the beginning, it is very difficult because a person can only understand Harinam as Namakshar, 32 syllables. They don't have an understanding clearly of what these 32 syllables are. Right? When you first come to the temple, I'm saying somebody who's completely new to Bhakti. So they've agreed to chant. So they're chanting, but that chanting manifests 32 syllables. The Shabda Brahman, nature of those 32 syllables, gives Sukriti file. From Sukriti, you will get what? Sadhu Sangha. And from Sadhu Sangha, gradually in elevated stages, you'll understand the 32 syllables to be composed of 16 names. Those 16 names, you'll be able to understand are related to the Achavigraha in the temple. If you stay on that platform, it's described. Acharyam eva haraye shraram pujam yayate Nartat Bhakteshu Chanyeshu Sa Bhakti Prakrita Smritaha. This is still on the level of material practice of devotion. It's called Kanishta Bhakta or Prakrita Bhakta. You're chanting Harinam, even having heard Nam from Guru, right? And you've obviously taken Diksha, but no illumination of Diksha and Sambandha Gyan has come, and you're worshipping the deity on the altar. This is called Prakrita Bhakta. You cannot recognize the value of the Sadhu Sangha. Only you're chanting the name and you can understand the worship of the deity. So you're making association between 16 names and the Archavigraha in the temple. The next elevation of chanting now, these 16 names are composed of 8 pairs, and these 8 pairs are inseparable. What am I meaning by this? Yes, because can Krishna or Radha exist without each other? No. Therefore, what you saw as 16 individual names, you're now understanding to be 8 pair of 8 yugal. Indispensable. Now, having understood Radha and Krishna as 8 pairs, you're understanding why they're indispensable from each other. Because what is the meaning of Radha? What is the meaning of Radha? Ra Shabda Iti Ragha. Ra means arag, particularly anurag. In anurag, the transformation of Mahabhav. In Mahabhav, Rud, Adi, Rud, Modan, Mohan, ultimately Madanakya Mahabhav, which is exclusive to the Radhika. So here it means rag, meaning Madanakya Mahabhav. That rag has power of Davati. Davati means it runs. The emotions of Radhika's heart in Madanakya Mahabhav are always running to Krishna. Krishna means that which can attract the rag of Radhika. The word Krishna means karshan, means to attract. Ana means ananda. The bliss tasted by Krishna as the Vishaya Jati of Radhika's Madanakya Mahabhav is the meaning of Krishna. But when Krishna experiences the taste of Radhika's Madanakya Mahabhav, he does davati to find that Radhika. You understand? So now...
No, I'm sorry, I don't understand.
Okay. Rewind the tape because you just...
I know, but I was listening in the kitchen.
Oh!
I walked
Okay.
over here, I'm sorry that I'm late.
Oh, no, you're not late. You were in the kitchen. Yeah.
Well, and I was also walking, but I didn't understand that last part that you said, that she is...
That Radhika, Radha means rag, da means davati. Davati means to run.
Okay, got it.
And Radhika's Madanakya Mahabhav is always running towards Krishna, who's the object of that love.
How do you spell that word?
Davati, Dhvati. Yes? Krishna being the object of that Madanakya Mahabhav, he attracts it. Therefore, he's Karshan. Krish in Sanskrit means Karshan, means what attracts the everything, but particularly the Madanakya Mahabhav of Radhika. When Krishna experiences that, he experiences Parama Ananda. Our Srila Bhakti Siddha Maharaj, when he was here, 2015, he taught me this one verse, which I went back and I memorized that verse. He was very happy. Bhagavat Stavad Asadharana Aishwarya Madhurya Tattva Vishesh Swarup Parama Ananda. That Krishna Swarup is Parama Ananda. So Parama Ananda means the highest kind of Ananda. What is the highest type of Ananda Krishna can taste? Radhika's Madanakya Mahabhav. Therefore, he covets that. He doesn't covet other things. He doesn't want to appear in Mahaprabhu to taste Sakya Rasa. You understand? He doesn't appear as Mahaprabhu even to taste Vatsalya Rasa, even though it's plenty there in Sachima. Why does he appear as Sachinandan Gaurari? To taste what is the Madanakya Mahabhav of Radhika. You understand? This is the beauty of Radhika's praying. When Krishna hears even the syllable Ra, he himself does davati to wherever he is that syllable. Oh, do you know where Radhika is? Do you know where Radhika is? You understand? So, this is the meaning of Radha and Krishna. This meaning becomes understood in that third iteration, where one understands that Radha and Krishna are yugul. In that yugul, they have their lila. This is the purpose for which they are two individual forms. Because Radha Krishna chaye eki sarup. Lila sasiddhite dhari duriru. They're one person who've become eternally two to taste this mood. How is this mood tasted? In Leelas, which are comprised of two elements. What are those two elements? Meeting, separation. Therefore, in this Hare Krishna mantra, in the 8 pairs of Yugal, are 8 particular periods of the day in which this Leela unfolds through meeting and separation. Hare Krishna, they are meeting. Hare Krishna, they are meeting, but their separation is pending, like in Nisant Leela. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Krishna is in Nandagam, Radhika is in Javat or Varsana, and they are separated. But in the second one, Hare Hare, they have made their arrangements for Abhisaran to meet again. Hare Ram, they've met again, and in that meeting, Ramayate Rama, in their meeting now, their pleasure has grown. So Ramayate Rama, we're saying now Hare Ram. You understand? Hare Ram, it has reached also a new height, but separation again is pending. Rama Rama Hare Hare. In their second separation, then their mood is so high that the bliss tasted in the sporty coming from that separation creates another height of ecstasy. You understand? So throughout 8 periods of the day, Ashtakali Leela, through meeting and separation, Radha and Krishna are tasting many, many Leelas, which are Ananda Buddhi Vardhanam, increasing their Ananda. Prati Punam, Punam Amrita Smaranam, continuously, even one step after another. So in the 3rd, 4th iteration, a person realizes this. Then a person realizes that these 8 pairs of names, they're actually one name. What one name are they? You're right. Say that.
Gaura.
Sachinandan Gaura Hari, because Gaura means Govinda Radha. So Gaura Hari, why? Because the nature of that prem has transformed. Shri Radha Pranaya Vikriti Ladini Shakti Asmad. Asmad means the cause or the source of a transformation has taken place. What is it? A Ladini Shakti is transformed. Ekatmanopu Uvi Buddhadeha Bedam Katao Tao. Though they were formerly one. Chaitanyatyam. They became one. How? Not like they were one before. Chaitanyatyam Prakratam Tad Aduna Chayatyam Aptam. They've obtained a new kind of oneness. What oneness? The Vishaya of the love of Radhika Krishna has now accepted the form and mood of Radhika and is tasting the mood of the Ashraya Jatiya. And they become one form.
What verse is that, please?
Adi Leela, chapter 1, text number 4 or 5. Very important verse because you understand the transformation of prem. Now if you'll study Ujjwala Mani and you look at how prem transforms itself, you understand this thing really completely. How beautiful is prem. So back to our psychology of bhakti practice, we have to get in the position of our real self, which is dasosmi. In the sense of our real self, we are void of kartatva except desire to serve Krishna. So we exercise that desire, manifested through the seal dhatu, means endeavors. Anukul Krishna, Anukul Yena Krishna Anusilanam. Silya means endeavors, by our sudden practice, everything else, to invoke the Kripa Shakti, mercy of Guru and Krishna. Guru Krishna Prasade Poi Bhakti Latavij. Right? We invoke that mercy. Then we witness with great attention, like the knitting Olympics, we witness with great attention, due to our attachment to desire to serve Krishna, the beauty of the unfoldment of Prem Shakti in our stages of unfoldment. And when we go through emotional crossroads due to the combined influence of the material and the spiritual energies pressing against each other, then we tolerate it. Utsahan Nishchayat Dharyat. Very patiently we tolerate. And we do not give up or divest one single inch of faith from bhakti practice to invest it in anything else. I was having a very beautiful conversation with one Didi I have so much respect for, a very older Prabhupada disciple, and does so much work and has so much affection for Gurudev. We're just having conversation back and forth. We were talking about the various modalities that arise I believe, this is my own personal belief, I have the faith that everything is in bhakti. That's why I spoke on this from the angle of vision of the psychology of the bhakti practice. Because there are some devotees who believe that bhakti is a spiritual thing, but if you need psychological, emotional, I'm not talking about acute problems here. I'm talking about just a sense of well-being. Then you may want to get involved in some other modality. Conflict resolution, communication skills, these things, that thing. You understand? If bhakti does not contain the ability to have the efficacy rather to produce those things, is bhakti complete or not? And if bhakti can't produce the outcome of those things have something bhakti doesn't have. And I also, to do any of those modalities, do I have to have faith in it or not? Yes. Therefore, I have to divest some degree of faith to place it here. When bhakti's asking, Shraddha Shabde Vishwash Kohe, so place all of it here. And that bhakti will, Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Bhakti, Koila, Savakam Kritahoy, it will do everything. It didn't say some things. Savakam Kritahoy, Krita means to do. It will do everything. So no need to do other things. I myself spent many years involved in these things as an outreach for preaching. You understand? Because I believe sincerely that for preaching purposes, it reaches out to a broader community and gives people a bridge into bhakti. So if you do, I'm going to come to this now. If you do astrology, if you're expert at conflict resolution, male-female relations, any of these things, to reach out into the broader community from a Krishna conscious perspective and offer these modalities to bridge people into bhakti, outstanding. However, if you cross that bridge, or you go to Keshigat, the warning is there, and you see Govinda, Boss TK, it's a wrap. From that point on, your everything is only here. So understand, there's a difference between using a modality for bridge for preach, that is a saver. There's a difference than taking shelter of it or putting faith in it. Because I'm saying to some degree, what's here, I could not find it here. It means you did not look deep enough. Did he? One question.
I guess I'm just struggling to understand the point that you're making now with the point you made earlier that material and spiritual life, like, they never touch like oil and water. So how could it be that if someone is struggling and these modalities address material challenges, that's what I'm struggling to understand and kind of
You are 101,000% correct. And this is my thing. This is the point. But for some people, everybody's at different levels of unfoldment. So for some people, because of the material influence, they're looking to that modality in the mode of goodness for some sense of well-being based on self-interest.
Right.
So that's what it really is. It's not really to solve a spiritual problem, because it can't. You're absolutely right. But people are looking to it as a means of coping with a particular trauma that they either by the maladministration or malapplication of bhakti practice from themselves and whoever they're associating with, they were unable to find that in bhakti. So somebody presents to them, well, let's all get together and have a seminar, and we will talk about your issues, my issues, and everybody's issues, and we'll put that all on the table. So I presented in the class I gave, I was answering a question for someone, and we have to be careful. Actually, so I tried to find the article, I could not find it. But we have to be careful, because when you do that, what you essentially do is, whatever is the issue that you have, it's carrying some toxicity in relation to bhakti. You package that up, bring it into the Sangha, right, or bring it into the association of other aspirants. They bring their toxic things with it. And what we're going to do is we're going to be radically honest. Everybody just spill your beans. What you're going. So we all do that. Where's the person who can burn the garbage? Where's the pure devotee who can burn the garbage? So what now you do is you come in, now maybe your toxic waste, I'm speaking figuratively here, your toxic waste was very large. Somebody else had some toxic weight, but they could fit it in a sandwich bag. But when you come in, by sharing with everybody, the idea is to equally distribute the suffering. So now what happens is that when you walk out the door, imperceptible is that you're carrying now more baggage than you came in with. It's deep. You understand? Whereas if you walked out of a class during the Bhagavad Sapta, I don't care what you were going through, I'm 280 something pounds. I was dressed like a coward boy. This is what Harikatha does. All problem, solution, mental things, all of that. So the efficacy of bhakti is vetted and proven. You understand? Also, in different modalities, how can we vet the authors or engineers of those modalities? Like, I'm giving you an example. It's become popular, I mentioned this in the answer class that I gave online, that there's a term called spiritual bypassing. Has anybody ever heard this? Spiritual bypassing. Where has the term spiritual bypassing come from? Huh?
New Age psychology.
There was actually a gentleman. He was a practicing Buddhist.
Is it related to science?
Yeah, he's a sociologist or psychologist, I can't remember. Practicing Buddhist. He observed some situations within his own group where people would come if they had a particular kind of problem, and people would say, oh, just do more meditation. So he observed that and felt that it was inadequate to generally deal with that person's issue. He coined the term spiritual bypassing, wrote a book on it. Before you know it, it's in the New Age lexicon. And because the Vaishnav Mandal, being as not as insulated by the Shakti of pure Vaishnavas, because so many Vaishnavas have left the world, everything, it seeps into the Vaishnav Mandal and becomes part of the lexicon. Prabhu, yes, you should try to chant more. Don't spiritual bypass me. Understand? So, now having understood the potency and power of even a drop of Shraddha, what to speak, Mahaprabhu is told from his own mouth. Namnam Akri Bahuda Nija Sarva Shakti. I put all of my Shakti, Nija means his own, Shakti in Harinam. What recommendation can I give you to solve a problem that would be superior? So am I bypassing your issue? Or am I giving the best known solution to me for that problem? But because I want to feel an immediate sense of comfort, and I know again in that practice, it's going to require me to give up doership and give up self-interest. I don't want to hear it. Right? Dur daivam. That's the meaning. Dur daivam. Therefore, I'm very unfortunate that I didn't have rag for now. Because I want the immediacy of the comfort. Just like Occidental medicine, Western medicine primarily is symptom medicine. It's not curative medicine. Right? Just like you can look at any ad. Are your legs tingling? Well, yeah. I'm 70 years old, my legs are tingling. Try leg tingle remove. Right? Now, you may feel suicidal. What the, come on. But your legs won't tingle. You may want to kill yourself. You may want to kill yourself, but your legs won't tingle. You understand? Come on, I mean, this is just, and this is how the society is. It is symptom oriented. So in our spiritual place, we also tend to look for that. We tend to look for symptom removal. So if we go to a session where that symptom removal, which means I can deposit my whatever is toxic, and I don't mean this in a real negative sense, I mean just whatever we have, I can deposit that in a forum, right? Let me just get rid of mine, and we'll discuss it. Oh, you really suffer? I feel really bad. I'm suffering too. Let me tell you my suffering. So everybody now deposits it, but where's the removal facility? It's not gone, because Didi made such a point. Material things can't solve spiritual problems.
Karma.
I guess the reason I was bringing it up,
Yeah.
because in my mind, I was struggling to understand also how
Material
vice
spiritual.
versa,
Yeah.
where it seems like what you're presenting is in like challenges with on the bhakti path,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't fix psychological problems on the bhakti journey with material modalities.
Yeah.
Let me just try to find my.
I get what you're
language.
saying.
Do
You're
you see
saying
what I'm
it
saying?
would
Like,
work
my
opposite also. Will
Yeah.
strictly spiritual things be able to solve material things like emotional, psychological trauma, and
Right.
so forth and so on?
Yeah.
Yes, because the difference is that one thing has an absolute power, the other thing has a relative power. You understand? So the relative power has no ability to solve things in the absolute realm. But the absolute power has the ability to solve relative problems. So Srila Prabhupada used to use the analogy. If you have $100, all your $10 problems are solved. And this is a fact. Because remember, even when I went to school, I remember when I graduated, I was thinking like, what am I going to do? Because first of all, well, first, tomorrow, let me come to your question because I don't want to see, can I have?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So first of all, when I was in high school, I came out of junior high school on honor roll, got to high school, 9th grade we got through. 10th grade, 11th grade was welcome to high school. Right? So I'm not going to say what that means, right? But welcome to high school, right? So now in the 11th grade, everybody's thinking, yeah, we're getting ready for college, everybody's writing letters, where you going, this and that. So we come to graduation year 12th grade. For the last 3 years, 10, 11, and most of 12, we've been partying like anything, right? So I'm asking friends, you know, I didn't get any letters back or anything. Where are you going? I got into Princeton. Huh? Yeah, I got into Cornell or Brown. I'm like, what? You know? So, but that was here nor there. So they said, okay, I'm gonna have to do so. I went to prep school, right? To get the grades back up. So then I'm thinking, like, what am I gonna do for a career thing? So at that time, prestige is everything. It doesn't really matter what the subject matter is, right? You just want to be prestigious. So I said, I'm gonna do pre-med. So I went to the college admissions officer, the counselor, and so she said, well, what are you thinking about? You know, your grades, everything. And so I said, pre-med. So she smiled, you know, because they have to be courteous, I guess. She smiled. She said, well, you know, your transcripts, all your grades matter, coming, especially 10, 11, and 12. So if you want to get into a pre-med program, you're probably going to have to do remedials. So I said, well, okay, well, what does that entail? Well, you'd have to give up your Saturdays and Sundays. What other majors do you have? What other majors do you have? You understand? So, but then anyways, the long story short, I was joking, but so then I asked her about the social sciences and human sciences, like sociology, psychology, all these things. So, well, first I asked her, well, what about psychology? And she just looked at me like, you don't know you have to be a doctor to be a psychiatrist? Right, so that was the first thing. That was the first idiotic thing I said. But then, you know, I was crying about other things. But then I realized, you know, because I was practicing bhakti to some degree at that point. And I realized in the human sciences, without understanding what is the soul, how can you truly address the root of a human condition? How is it possible? Because if we are the soul, which is the fact, we have a mental, intellectual, ego capacity on a subtle realm, and then we have 5 gross elements that make up a body. If you don't understand the root, how you'll deal with everything else. So again, it will be subtle symptom medicine. You'll analyze a symptom in someone, and then analyze that in the brain it does this, that is, but you're not touching the root of that person. In the soul, are there any problems in the soul itself? Jiva Goswami clearly, dukkha pratiyogita, paramatma sandarbha. There are no issues in the soul. So where are the issues coming from? The vicarious relationship between the soul and the material world. So the problems are in the material world and our vicarious identification with it. So could I solve all problems if I could get you to understand the soul?
Sure.
As simplistic as that statement is, it's the truth. It's the truth. But it's difficult sometimes for devotees to want to digest that because it doesn't immediately feel good because of all the things I mentioned earlier. But when does that happen? Will it happen next year? Is it a 4-year course in becoming pure devotee? You understand? Because we can't mark it off in time and we can't be in control of it, it becomes very anxiety filled. Whereas if I go to the seminar, I am in control. I am availing myself to it. The facilitator of the seminar is, he's there, she or she is doing, and there's a sense of mutual doership, and so that is comforting because it's within our control. Bhakti takes away your control and puts it all at the lotus feet of Guru and Krishna.
You mentioned earlier that you could use this process like for Prabhupada's given the example so many times, dovetailing. So you mentioned earlier how you still could use like that process for Krishna consciousness. So you said you've even used it
Mm-hmm.
so that you could you gave the example of how you can get a
Tamarji, don't
you
forget your
can
question.
reach out to more people and all that. So what about for those people who feel they're like, because clearly you're a very educated person, so
Not really.
I think so. Very. For those that I'm just saying, as an example, for those that are perhaps feeling that they may be less educated, they need to educate themselves to come up to the standard of like, you know.
Well,
say,
I mean,
say where you
I think I
are,
get what you're saying.
someone in your
So
position.
I'm thinking that if somebody is feeling a sense of inadequacy in some particular way, bhakti can cover all inadequacies because bhakti is absolute. But it may be that I cannot perceive from my position of inadequacy how that happens. So, a preacher, their duty, Srila Maharaj mentioned that when he was here, one of the expertise of a preacher is that how you reach out to people at where people are and be able to create a bridge to cross into bhakti is also important. You can't show up at some place and just tell people, hey, all of you just not the body, Krishna's God, you're all his servants, what all are you doing here? You can't, just, it won't go over well, nor will it actually resonate with where those people are at. So if you have any expertise, right? If you're an astrologer, if you're a counselor, if you're an artist, if you're this and that, and you use that to reach out to people, that is a seva in bhakti. Srila Prabhupada, he started his preaching on the premise that I will help you get free from suffering. Is that the point of pure bhakti? No. But Prabhupada used that, yeah, you're suffering, I could tell. How many trips you've been on today? Understand? You're definitely suffering. So I'm coming and I will help you be happy forever. I will help you get free from suffering. So he actually used the self-interest that people had to bridge them into, just try this, see what happens. All of our acharyas have done like that. Right? Somebody guided one Mathuravasi to go to Sanatana Goswami because his daughter had to get married to get the Chintamani stone. You understand? So that program is not the problem is when the devotee themselves, having entered the arena of bhakti, then takes the main currency in bhakti, which is Shraddha, faith, and divest it to go back under self-interest and apply it into something else. That is dangerous.
I appreciate you answering that because I personally feel like a lot of people may, in one sense or another, feel that way, but they may not necessarily be able to say it.
Yeah, and another thing, good point you're bringing up is that now somehow or another, because whenever things arise, there's always something, because it's in the atmosphere of Kali. Remember, one of the features of Kali is it creates discord. Right? That's one of the features of Kali. So now people are looking at these different views as opposed to each other rather than their ability to be reconciled. So people are looking at it and they term it progressive versus archaic Vaishnavism. You understand? And as soon as you categorize it and put it in a box, you garner a team. I'm team progressive. I'm team archaic. And therefore the essential point of reconciliation becomes missed. You understand? Because people then they invest their ego in it, and people defend the posture rather than look for reconciliation.
Yeah.
Tamaji?
Yeah, I guess my whole Krishna conscious career, since encountering with this map you were laying out today, Madhurya Kadambini, kind of giving a review, I've kind of somehow internalized it like a graph
Yes.
Or like if you see the Super Mario Brothers from the side, it's just two dimensional, like boink, boink,
Mhm,
boink, like
mhm.
you know, anarki riti,
Mhm. Yeah.
nishita ruchi, and it's. But you mentioned this term, which was like, yeah, can we hear more about the pits and valleys? Because my experience has been like, I get that two-dimensional graph, like. I feel like the Acharyas, Chakravarti, Kuru, Goswami, they're giving some kind of like basic map.
Mhm.
Like they say, the map is not the territory, you know? To
Mhm.
walk this land is different than
Mhm.
looking at a picture of it.
Right.
And the actual experience is so much more diverse, and it's
Mhm.
almost like just what I've heard about this step to this step to this step, it's advancing, it seems very, you know, linear, even if you think it's a gradient, it's
Mhm.
smooth. There's thousands of little steps, it's still gradient, but it's like,
Yeah.
wait. It's almost like seasonal. Like there's been seasons when
Yeah.
that chitta is adhering.
Mhm.
You know, and then there's seasons like, what happened? It doesn't stick anymore.
Yeah.
The mind is kooky like it was
Right,
10
right,
years ago.
Right.
And then, you know, it's it doesn't match the like picture that I've got. This little Super Mario Brothers simplistic advancement. It's going all over the place, and that's really bewildering. And you know, they call it dark night of the soul. You just don't know which way is.
Mhm.
Where
This
are
is-
you at? How do you even map yourself when it doesn't make sense?
Yeah. We have to be able to translate and synthesize what the acharyas teach with the reality of the practice. So what happens is if you look at the 6 stages of Anushtita Bhakti, the genesis, which I spoke sort of in summary, but the genesis that I spoke about of material impressions and spiritual impressions has directly come from Madhurya Kandamini. There are 2 sources of material impressions, Duskrita Utta and Sukrita Utta. There are 2 sources of spiritual impressions, Aparad Utta and Bhakti Utta. And if you look at Madhurya Kandamini, this is the genesis of what forms the basis of 4 types of 4 narthas. You understand? Did you get it?
Mhm.
So if you look at Madhurya Kandamini, he first points out the sources of what it is that makes the chitta in the condition it is. Because he's described Anistita Bhakti. Utsamai Ganatala Vishaya Sangra, Vishaya Sagra, 2 things.
Mhm.
Right? Sangra means strife and struggle. Sagra means ocean. Because once you get to the point of Yudavikalpa, where you, from the point of view of Kartatva doership, try to adjust bhakti, you open the floodgates of your material impressions. So like an ocean, it overwhelms you. That's what causes struggle and strife. You understand? Because Yudavikalpa literally means, Vyuda means choices. And I'm trying to pick a choice that's going to line up with where I am in bhakti, rather than me moving towards the goal itself. So it's like trying to move the goalpost.
Mhm.
You understand? So 100 yards is not a touchdown. Well, let's make 10 yards today because I just ain't feeling. You understand? So I'm going through the literal things now. So in that stage, you open up for Vishaya Sangra, the strife of the struggle with material energy. And then at that point, Niyamakshama comes. Because of the flood of those material experiences, I'm unable to maintain the thing that's actually removing those material influences. And at that point is when, by the mercy of Bhakti Shakti, you get the realization, I can't do it. And that's when you do the Draupadi. Gurudev! And that, now here's the next thing. When you do the like, Gurudev, I can't do it. That time Guru, because he's so merciful, Gurudev subsidizes again, re-enthuses your bhakti. When he re-enthuses your bhakti, you begin to do bhakti, and now you're chanting 1 lakh Harinam, all sastras coming out of your throat just like a river, and all these things are going on. Then what happens? Pratishta was looking down, oh, there's a good candidate. Boom! Taranga Rangini. You start floating on the waves. Pratishta Ashtadrasht. You start floating on the waves. When you come to give class, you can't give class unless your eyes go. You understand? Everyone who's a sadhu, sadhu. You understand? And your ears, they're regularly to this size, but your ears will go. Understand? So this is called Taranga Rangini. And you start tasting that. That's what Raghunath Das Goswami says, Pratishthasta drasa swapacharamani yurid meina tet. That it's like an this is really heavy language. Outcast, dog-eating prostitute.
Wow.
Dancing in the heart. Now, you know what? You know what the implication is here, though? If you obviously observe something, would that be pretty observable? If you saw an outcast woman eating dog, soliciting prostitution, that'd be pretty obvious thing. and you would not associate with it, right? But Pratishta is so subtle, it can dance in your heart and you can't even see it. Drust means audacious. Audaciously dancing in the heart. But when people tell Sadhu, Sadhu, your kirtan was amazing. Oh, how you dressed Takaji was so. Hey, drink it. Oh, yeah. Understand?
Right.
That's why you never pay attention. It's like, Sadhu, Sadhu. Guru Dev, Sadhu.
So the pride is still there. There's still some.
This is Tarangarangini. That's why it's in the category of Anishtita Bhakti. And then he describes how this happens. And he begins by two kinds of impressions, material and spiritual. The two forces of material impressions are Duskriti and Sukriti, karma performed in bad ways or in good ways. And the two spiritual ones are aparad, which means things you did in a previous life in relation to bhakti, making the bhakti incomplete. So now the bhakti impressions and the material impressions are coming. They then play out with four nartas, like asatrishna, maintaining an attachment to enjoyment in this world. And if I can't enjoy in this world, can I enjoy in heaven? Well, if I can't beat them, let's join them. Let me get moksha. And if I can't do that, at least let me have some mystic city so I can play around until whatever's going to happen happens. Understand? So in this way, we develop a consciousness of Dharanartha. And then also aparad, the carryover of the aparads, which were from the previous life, come, and we're trying to dispel them, but we're practicing now, because praktanaka aduniki. Practice is, praktana means previous, and adunik means now. Practicing now, we may still have some save aparad, especially nam aparad, right? Aparad to the Murti of Takaji, and aparad to jivas. Also, not only Vaishnava aparad, to all jivas. Understand? And then, Ridoya Dubalyam, Ridoya Dul Bhav. The inability to pick up on the subsidy given by Gurudev's potency, to catch that, you can't catch it. So the heart becomes weak. And it gives rise to kutanati, dupliciousness. Because false ego arises again, I don't want anybody to know I'm struggling. So I come in and I make believe I'm not struggling. The reverse polarity of that is radical honesty. Hi everybody, I have an announcement. I am struggling with this, and this, and this. So now I've gotten it off my chest, you go ahead and take it home with you. Understand? So the kutanati is both sides of that coin. Also, tucha shakti, maintaining attachment to insignificant things. Matsarya. Matsarya, Srila Swarup Siddha Maharaj gave so nice explanation of this. Because Matsarya generally means a big fish when it eats a small fish, it's called Matsarya. Right? Envy is what we translate in English. But he said it really means, because envy is not always malicious. Envy means the inability to tolerate my self-interest becoming backseat to anyone else's self-interest. That was his definition. He gave the Sanskrit and he gave the inability to tolerate it. It is very subtle. Understand? So, and then Labda Puja Pratishta. Again, Pratishta raises its ugly head. And then Swarup Brahm. Now, if you analyze any problems that anyone is going through, you can connect it to one of those type of four narthas. Name any problem. Name any one.
I mean, say that you're living alone in the woods, and there's nothing really changing in your life, and that there's a period of time that the chitta is sticking to Krishna and the holy name, and then there's a time that it's not anymore, and it's a struggle again, and then there's a time that sticks, and there's a time that it's not, and it's like, what's that about?
That's called Anushtita Bhakti, because the adhesive of realizations has not taken place in the chitta. So the chitta is still vacillating. So when you're practicing and your bhajan becomes deep, and part of the bhajan practice becoming deep is not just information. The deepness is the application of your emotional content and everything to the process. Then you can see in the process the transformations of the Kriya Shakti of Swarup Shakti. You can't witness that until you give full emotional content. Understand? If your emotional content is still in self-interest, Saranagati hasn't taken place yet. And Prahlad Maharaj mentioned the 9 processes of bhakti, Shravanam, Kirtan, Vishnu, Smaran, Param, Seva, etc. What does he say after that? Itti Pumsa Prikta Vishnu, Saranagati. So you have to understand what Saranagati, by Maharaj's Saranagati book. You have to understand what is Saranagati. Because if you don't do Saranagati, right? What is Saranagati really? No self-interest. You're asking people, Anukuyasha Sankalpa Pratikuyasha Vivajam. Take a vow, I'm only going to do everything only for Krishna, not for me. So we can say that, but literally speaking, self-interest is almost like survival because of a humkar. So they're asking you to remove your humkar right off the bat. Do everything only for Krishna, don't worry about yourself. You understand? Reject anything that's not favorable for Krishna. It is favorable for me to sleep till 10 o'clock, but it's not favorable for bhajan, which is not favorable for Krishna. So that automatically creates a dichotomy here. You understand? It is favorable for me to want to have, certain kind of arrangements between boys and girls, all these kind of things, or men and women, whatever. But it's not always favorable for bhakti. Just like one devotee, he had a whole thing. I'm running late, so I don't want to go on too much longer. He had a whole thing of an idea that what Srila Prabhupada mentioned about sex only for procreation was untenable in actual practice. And therefore it fits into the category of the archaic bhakti. Yeah. Do you think Srila Prabhupada didn't know that people were different levels of unfoldment in dealing with sex life and lust? He came in the 60s. You understand? So he thought, oh, everybody here is celibate. He knew what was going on, but he gave the principle in relation to pure bhakti. You understand? Because in Grahastha life, celibacy is considered in 4 ways. It is celibacy if you have sex only with your duly married wife. That's still considered celibacy according to Dharmasastra. If you have, but they're in different grades. That's the lowest grade. Second grade in Grahastha ashram is to have sex, avoiding the various tithis like Ekadasi and other things. That is also considered celibacy in Grahastha life. The next best iteration is sex life where there's, sex life, which is duly married wife, sex life which honors the various tithis like Ekadasi, so forth and so on. Oh, sex life at a time when it is most probable for procreation, even if you don't have that intent. High class is sex with the intent to procreate. Srila Prabhupada quoted that one because it was most favorable to bhakti because it has no self-interest. He didn't say that I don't know that you're unfolding in the process of it. So unless you've taken Vanaprastha sannyas, he understood people are in different iterations with this. So we don't have to change bhakti and say this is untenable. You understand? And also Srila Prabhupada never asked, okay, tomorrow morning everybody come and report your sexual activities for this week. You understand? Whatever is going on in your house, just follow the process gradually, as people get more mature in bhakti, get older, all these things will work themselves out. But don't struggle with it or become debilitated with it either. Right? Just like one of the big problems that were happening in the institution so many years ago, you had a person who was brahmachari, and it was like, last week he would look at a woman and say, what to do? Next week he had on white in the Mangalarti. You understand? And then you ask, hey, Prabhuji, you're getting married? Yeah, I wanted to help Mataji with her Krishna consciousness. So it's like all kinds of different, and this comes from the not genuine practice. If you have good sadhu sangha, all genuine practice will be there. Genuine practice will be there.
Like I feel that going on what Kamaji was talking about, that looking back on my life, times when it was up, my sadhana and all that was up. It wasn't me. It was that I had an association of Srila Gurudev. I was able to go to Dham. It's not like there was anything from my end. It was just riding on those waves of that pure bhakti that I was able to be. And then when that was gone, it was like, oh.
Just another question. Did the bhakti do that? Did you go down?
I did.
No, you didn't.
Well.
Because if that's the case, then the statement is not true. Nothing in bhakti is lost.
Right.
So what it means is that I've stopped looking at it. It's there.
Yeah.
You understand? I've stopped looking at it.
My
I've stopped looking at it. But it doesn't disappear because then that statement would be false. You understand? So the bhakti is never lost. Whatever's acquired is permanent.
But this up and down.
The up and down is our perception according to self-interest. Because when I take self-interest, then it doesn't leave room for only interest. Anya abhilas sunya. I'm not adding the suffix ita here. Anya abhilas sunya. Being void of any other desire except Krishna's pleasure. When I am thinking like that, all my bhakti bank account is present before me. When self-interest arises, it obfuscates that, and there's the appearance of going down. That appearance of going up and down is called anishtita bhakti.
It can be even a spiritual self-interest, like I want to have the feeling of Krishna's presence in my life.
Yes?
That's for me.
Yes. Yeah, he's making a point because Rupa Goswami Pad has mentioned, this is a very subtle point, we're going to have to end here because RT is also starting. Bhakti, even when it becomes perfected, can have two qualities of self-interest. Shukya Aishwarya Uttra and Prem Seva Uttra. So Rupa Goswami is described, I want to go to Vaikuntha. I will serve Narayan. And I will be absorbed in the opulence of Vaikuntha. It will be very wonderful. There's a mixture here of self-interest and Bhagavan Seva. Prem Seva Uttra. I will go to Braj. In Braj, I will see the beautiful form of Shyam Sundar. Oh. Okay. I'll see the beautiful form of Shyam Sundar. The atmosphere of Braj is so beautiful. I'll be living there in that Braj, absorbed in the most high class of bliss. The night of Ras Leela. That's horrible. That's aparad, Krishna's flute. On that night, Krishna calls for rasa. Dusahavi rohete vratapta dushta shubha. Those gopis who did not get the association of Nityasura gopis and purify that tendency for being happy by being in Braj, the southern cities, they could not leave to go to Ras Leela. You understand? Therefore, at that time, Dhyana Prapta Tutta Shleshana Shita Mangali. In their hearts they embrace Krishna. And due to the suffering, Tivra Tapt, of separation from Krishna after he called for them, that tendency was burnt up. And the truth of their true mood came because they embraced Krishna in the heart. Jara Buddhapi Sangata, in the mood of a paramour. Then, Guna Mahideha, the last vestiges of any gun that was not absolutely anukul for Krishna's happiness, dissipated, and they obtained Ras on a later night, or the Nitya Golok down. Jai Hari Bol. Oh, thank you, Bodhi. Very nice questions.